Welcome back to the 716 Sports Podcast. Nailed the take. That was the first time we've done that intro tonight. Don't worry about it. Welcome back to here, everyone. It's been a little while since we've been here with you. Excited to be back here on the cusp of Bills training camp. We'll talk about what we think of this Bills roster, what we think they could do, what's going on with that crowded backfield. Does LaShawn McCoy a Bill when the season starts and when it finishes? The Sabres have made a bunch of moves since we were last year. Made a trade, maybe not the one that everyone expected. It did involve a defenseman one way or another. And we're recording for the first time ever in Justin's air-conditioned room here, because the last time we did this, it was just an open window and a fan, and boy howdy, it feels nice in here. Way better than sitting out in the bleachers at Progressive Field in 102-degree weather on Saturday. So great to be back here with all of you. Full house. What's going on, Bill?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Wait, that's who the new guy is, huh?
Yep. Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's probably worth noting our other colleague decided to move.
Yeah,
like
Nick
not
died.
Close.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, he's dead. It's unfortunate.
That was not what I said, to be clear.
No.
But make sure you check out his trivia show that still exists in memoriam.
Yeah,
I think
the Nicholas John Memorial Trivia Program brought to you by Trivia 716.
Yep, having the screen at the beginning with a black and white photo of him, that one picture with him and all the buzzers.
Yeah, I actually just took the old Raw intro memorial to Eddie Guerrero and photoshopped his face on Eddie's body. It's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Viva La Raza. Viva Washington, D.C. Yeah, so we have a lot to do. How's your guys' summer been? Been good so far? You said you were at a baseball game.
Yeah, made the road trip down to Cleveland for the annual pilgrimage. This is a Cleveland Indians podcast.
Yeah, we had the Indians podcast previously before
we did
started.
We saved Justin from on-air baseball talk, so we're going to can that so Justin doesn't smash his head through the big monster.
Just fall out of his chair on the floor.
Justin, fighting cancer a couple weeks ago. How'd that go?
It was wonderful.
Very good.
It was a good time. Sad it's over.
I know. You miss it every year. Do you miss being in the same place for 11 straight days playing hockey, or is that part?
I actually hope they do that again.
Bring it back?
Yes.
You want to re-break the world record?
Re-break it. Because it got broken again.
It did?
They broke it
right after it.
They broke it a year later.
Oh, man.
Jerks.
So now you almost have to go for
it. Do it for, put it out of play. Go 48 days or something like that.
Wow.
We call it
talk it away.
The Moses power play for 40 days and 40 nights. We will fight cancer.
The Moses power play.
That's right.
Noah.
I'll pitch it.
I like the idea.
Moses was not on the ark, to be clear. But hey,
I thought you were talking about free salsa, so I misheard you, and I apologize.
Welcome to Moses. Noah. It's all the same.
The Moses Power Play
Sam
brought to you
Reinhart
by Salsaritas Fresh Cantina.
That's right. You get free guac. Okay. Well,
dang,
that's
I
good.
could go
Mike,
for a steak burrito now.
Mike, how's your thing going? Summer?
Yeah, it's going.
You're wearing your Bills shirt there, or is that a sticker on the shirt?
No, that's my Bills
embroidered.
Shirt. Yes, it is.
Classy. Nike swoosh. Very good. Up to date.
Nice and comfortable, and just the logo.
Yeah.
Nothing else, like Steve pointed out. It's not any big loud graphics or anything like that. It's just the logo.
It's not your style.
Steve's over there repping.
Says enough.
Repping the FCB.
Yeah, FC Buffalo.
It's fresh Father's
Cleveland
Day.
beat Detroit. They're on their way to semifinals in the national championship, which is crazy.
I know we're going to get into MPSL soccer here, which I don't know how much people follow if it's not FC Buffalo. But Cleveland came down from 3-0 to win the first match of the playoffs in extra time, and down a man, for the record, 2 goals in stoppage time.
Yep.
And then they won a game. They were down 2-0. 3-2 on Saturday in penalty kicks.
Yep.
So they have done about everything possible to get themselves to the national semifinals.
One could argue they're a little lucky.
So good for them.
Or
it's good to at least lose in a division to a team that is actually good.
Yeah. Very good.
They gave FC Buffalo problems.
Steve, anything going good on the...
Well, I got a kid coming in 5 weeks. Not even. Good grief.
All right.
The 20th of August. That is not 5 weeks away.
No, it's very close.
No.
But in 9 days, I'm going to Cedar Point. Okay. So that is, how you have to kind of take one big thing at a time. She took a week in Florida without me at the end of May. So me going to Cedar Point for 3 days without her, perfectly acceptable.
She's not going to ride on the roller coaster.
37
weeks pregnant.
That would be a great idea, except it wouldn't be. So I'm going with a longtime friend, just the two of us. So he and I will have a 3-day trip at Cedar Point. So that's exciting.
Then they have a lot of roller coasters there.
17.
17.
Yeah.
I saw a commercial for it the other day.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Very excited for that. So,
Justin, how's your wife?
She's great. She's cool.
She's hanging out over there on the couch.
She's there.
She's always on that couch when I get here.
She's in a new spot today. She was in a different spot.
She was in a different spot, so I didn't make eye contact with her when I walked in, but that's fine.
Say hello to her.
What's that?
Say hello to her.
No, I
That's
don't
rude.
ever initiate anything.
So-
I just walked in silently into your house.
So I'm reading Justin's email because they're on the screen right now. Justin has an email from a Jonathan Rivera. The subject line is, "You have no business podcasting."
Fuck you, Jonathan.
He's 4 down. That's a sign. Oh boy, howdy. Well, I guess we're going to
Couple
prove.
Uber drives
We'll spend the
on,
next
over
better
there.
part of an hour proving him right or wrong.
Now, what do you tip on Ubers, Justin? You go 1, 3, 5, or custom?
It depends.
Is it? It does.
I usually go 3.
Yeah, I think 3 is fair. No
But
matter what
sometimes
it
it
costs,
Uber to-
even if it's like an $8 or $9 trip.
Sometimes I Uber to work,
Okay.
and it's like 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
I tip $1.
Okay.
It's like a 4-minute drive.
Yeah. It's not really worth your time to.
Then you go to
give
New York
any more
City
than
and
that.
you Uber around New York City, and it's like a $100 Uber to go.
I took a
4
Uber.
miles.
I had an Uber to a power play shift, and my Uber driver told me that Darlene and Eichel stink. I tipped
Yeah.
him $1.
Yeah. This is a good
Tip you
jumping
less for
off
hot
point.
takes.
So this guy
Good,
was upset because he said they weren't producing yet, right?
Yeah.
Now Rasmus Dahlin has played what 78 games here.
So you gotta show him.
You better
more.
pick it up.
Did
That's
you
all I know.
Gotta figure this
did you
stuff
give
out.
him a 1-star review?
No, I gave him a 4-star review, $1 tip.
4-star? You didn't even go 5-star.
The 4-star reason
good
for
move.
poor conversation.
That's more frustrating.
Yeah,
So
a 4-star tip is way worse for that guy than
Yeah.
anything you could have done. You could have not tipped him, and that would not have affected
5
him.
or 1 only. That's the rule that I live by.
Okay.
It's 5s or 1s.
Bill's an all or
but
nothing
I
kinda guy.
but I like that. Give him a little variance. Make him think about it. Well, what could I have done to earn the other 5? Maybe it wasn't act like an asshole to the 2 best players.
Not
the
have a shit
Sabres.
take.
Mike,
that would
you said something when you came in, and I want to let you get into that. We started talking about the layout of the show and what we're going to do, and you're like, I want to talk about how dumb Sabres fans are. Did you have something on your mind?
Yeah, I'm just been sick of the whole. I've been sick of the whole Royal Blue thing, but that's not the most important thing. But I just feel like Sabres fans just don't have this concept of how rebuilding works. I mean, they see other teams that it seems that they've rebuilt faster, but how many of these teams were actually as far down and as bad as the Sabres were at their worst? I mean, they keep talking about roster surgery, and then it just seems like half the moves aren't good enough, and then let's haul off this what we consider trash and try to get something good for it. It just doesn't work that way. So basically, I'm just sick of seeing people throwing out opinions that really make no sense.
So let's talk about what they've done since the last time we were here. It's a few things. They've got Jimmy VC back, so VC watch after all those years.
The fact that you just
he's
said they
back
got
here.
him back is
Still gonna
great.
boo him.
They
Every time he
technically
touches the
did get him back.
That's
He was
great.
at one point
Property
technically-
property of the Buffalo Sabres.
Technically.
They signed Marcus Johansson to
They
be a second line center, left winger, and right winger all at once.
the
All
same
at
time.
once, yeah.
He's a one-man line.
Yep.
They traded Alex Nylander to Chicago for
Don't like
Henry Jokiharju.
God bless.
Which
you.
is
I've
good. Which
taken
is a good,
3 weeks to learn how to say that. That's why we have a podcast.
That's right.
We said it was because Justin was
You,
doing the
you
power
still have
play.
to pause. Henry Jokiharju.
And
Like, it
what
takes a
level
second.
is he? A water Pokemon? What is he?
Got to catch them all.
I'm still learning.
There are so many damn Pokemon now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
They're coming out with more of them. There's going to be more Pokemon this year. It's insane.
Well, you
How
keep
many
them
are
in
there?
that ball thing, don't you?
You-
Where do they all go in there?
It's your home.
I don't
Is
know.
there
It's like an
one?
egg.
Is there one artist, Pokemon artist?
Oh, yeah.
Let's keep them locked in a room, just feed them meth, and just draw more.
I need 150 by October.
This one's Jokiharju.
He's just literally in there. He's like, what's around here? All right, here's a lamp. There's a garbage can. There's an ice cream cone. These are all, by the way, all real Pokemon.
There's an ice cream.
There's an
cone
ice cream
Pokemon?
cone. It's called Vanillish. It's literally just a fucking vanilla
The
ice
fact
cream.
that you
Isn't
know
there a
this.
isn't there a gas cloud?
I mean, there's been a gas. I think the gas cloud's an OG. Coughing and wheezing are OG.
That's right.
That's their names.
Coughing and wheezing, yeah, they're the English
So
translations of
the
the
one guy is just doing the art, and then the other guy is just like high, and he's like, "What do we call him?
basically.
Coughing."
There's good old, and there's Grimer. I mean, you look back at the English translations of the original Pokemon names. There's a bunch of just like shitty puns like that all
All
in
right,
there.
well, that's all right. Cool. Anyway, Jokiharju. or
Henry
whatever.
Jokiharju. I cannot wait till Rob Ray has to describe his play to me. I'm going to picture Rob Ray saying Jokiharju to me.
RJ and Rays are gonna have a fun one time with that one. Just stumbling.
You're Henry.
Henry. Yeah.
I love RJ. That's a bitch of an
one of
announcer
my
name.
gripes that I hate, like with hometown guys, hometown announcers, or when they just call the guys by their first names, like the Bonaventure play-by-play guy, he would always be like, Michael passes it over to AJ back to Michael, to Tyler, back over to Mike. Like, it's like, dude, you don't know. Like,
that only works if it's Kobe, and even then, they still don't.
But yeah, hopefully, anyway, they can. We'll get RJ some pronouncers or whatever, because he's immortal and he's never going to give up the throne. He is. He is
going to work until the end of the earth, right?
You saw that, right?
Huh?
You liked Game of Thrones, right?
Never watched it.
No, I thought you liked Game of
Never
Thrones.
seen it.
The White
Sorry,
Walkers,
sir.
or Talkers, or
Winter is coming.
Wind Talkers.
White Walkers was correct.
That's what I was.
We've already strayed so far from Sabres talk.
Perfect. That's why people are listening.
Right. Well, we are the 26th funniest podcast, so we got something going on.
We don't even know. We could be anywhere from 26 to
anywhere on that.
400th. We're
God
just not
knows
top
where we are
20.
on that chart.
The fact
we
that
love soccer. I
the
thought
fact
that
that
would
Lindy
help
Ruff's
us.
tie is that low down means that we must be complete shit, because if Lindy Ruff's tie is 17th, we don't have any hope.
I have thoughts. Anyway, the Sabres have made a bunch of small incremental moves. Does it move the needle in the toughest division in hockey, or at least the top heaviest
They haven't
division
signed
in
anybody
hockey?
good. They got a team full
They
of...
signed guys that are fine, but they were, as Mike was saying, they were so far behind that competent signings are perhaps hailed as being more than what they are.
signed
The competent signing happened so long ago, we're just going to forget about Jeff Skinner.
They signed all meddling players at this point. Colin Miller was a trade. It's a
good move.
Is always a middle tier defender. Top four, not top two. Johansson's a bottom 9 forward, in my opinion.
There's only 3 above bottom 9.
VZ's a bottom
VZ's
6.
a bottom
Sorry,
6 guy,
bottom
for
6.
sure. Yeah.
Johansson's bottom 6. Sorry, bottom 6. We got 9 for him.
You're not wrong about Johansson, though. It just
Larson,
means he's not a top line
Gergenson's
guy.
bottom 6. They're all about Yokoharu, top 6. Not a...
Yeah.
Well, it's really hard to find.
And they
top
got right now.
guys
They got
just
like
walking around though.
like 30 fucking players in the roster. They can ice a team for each era of jersey they're gonna represent.
They're still
this year.
going to get. They have to cut what, about 4 defensemen?
I think right now they're at
realistically?
28 or 29 NHL players on the roster.
Right.
Just wait
But
until they re-sign Remy Ellie.
He was in the AHL last year.
tender it.
Tender it.
I don't get the logic between bringing back Larson and Gergensen.
Well,
that did not
I
make
didn't
sense.
quite understand. Maybe the idea is that because you locked them in, you can trade them somewhere else and get a 6th-round pick for it, or a
trade their
low-level
rights,
prospect.
though.
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing.
Larson didn't even file for arbitration. That guy was just willing to get kicked out the door, and they're like, "Nope, stay." He's like, "All right."
Which is interesting because maybe it's something that Kruger's seeing and saying, "I want that guy and I want that guy, and I think I can make it work." I don't know.
I don't mind keeping one of them, but both of them.
Well,
Yeah, both of them,
just
yeah,
kind
it's
of
a mistake.
assumed it was a one or the other thing, and then there was that weird report that they were, going home, and who knew what was going on, and there was some kind of misleading reports on that, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, both guys are back, and the status quo reigns with those two.
The neat guys that can score, they just keep picking up bottom 6 guys. Like Vessi's not going to be the solution to anything.
I'll take him over some of the other options, but
Agreed.
he's not. You use the phrase "move the needle." Nothing moves the needle in this division because nothing
Johansson
that they're going to
was
do
about
is
it.
in the short term going to impact.
Right. So there's 3 dominant teams, and if you think the Sabres are going to get past the Bruins, the Maple Leafs, or the Lightning anytime soon, I mean,
I don't even
Cool.
worry about that.
I don't know
yet.
what that is.
We're not even getting past Florida and Montreal and that tier of teams at this point.
I think they can get to Montreal. Florida's probably better, and they've made a massive upgrade at coach, so Florida's probably going to be better. But yeah, that's the point, right? Is like, other than Detroit, who else are you contending with in this division? And
Detroit and Ottawa.
So you got Detroit and Ottawa. You're ahead of both of them. It just seems like they're squarely in 6th place with not a lot of opportunity to move up. But guys get hurt all the time. You have a guy who's running a new program where he's not super familiar, never coached in the Eastern Conference. It's been, only got exposed for 48 games, learned a lot, hopefully managing a bottom tier Premier League side. We'll see what comes of it, but at least there's something different going on, I
Sports science.
suppose.
He's going to call him over at the end.
Yes.
He's like, "Boys, I need you to park the bus. We're up 1 with 30 left." It's like,
Like, everyone
coach, it's the
thinks-
middle of the second period.
Not how this works.
People think Kruger's going to come and fix everything.
We can't have 10 of us on
He's
the
better.
ice.
He says he's a much better communicator with the players than Housley was. but he's not
Well,
I
I believe.
he's not an X's and O's kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to come and strategically beat the other team.
But
in a chess
maybe-
game,
But I think that's the pendulum swinging the other way because you
Right.
had a guy who was so
Right.
much the X's and O's guy, and that didn't
Plus,
work.
no,
He was
I'm not- he wasn't,
micromanaging his
though.
line
he
matchups
was
and everything.
very bad at X's and O's.
Well,
Sure.
but he was trying to do it, though.
He was trying so hard to make this team follow his X's and O's, and that never translated.
And it led to a lot of line changes in the middle of games and weird pairings and moves that none of us understood, but it made sense to him. Now you just have a guy who's going to be willing to listen to the players and try to get more out of them.
I mean, mostly
That's the only way the season becomes more than they're the 5th or 6th best team in the division is if Kruger comes in and gets something that hasn't been visible before for members of this roster. Whether
From
that's
multiple guys.
yes, whether that's Ristolainen or McCabe or Larson or whoever.
And
it's got to be something.
I think assumed Housley had obviously in retrospect an incredible crop of talent in Nashville, but you would assume that the Hall of Fame defenseman would be able to lend some credibility to the defense. How excited were we thinking that Ristolainen was going to be paired with Housley? We thought he was going to unlock him and turn him into the guy. I remember we did a podcast a long time ago. Matt Collier, when he was still in Buffalo, said Rasmus Ristolainen, after I think it was his first or second season, this is a guy that has Victor Hedman like potential, and it wasn't just him. He was saying that's what a lot of people were projecting this guy to be, and it just has never come to be. And you don't want to keep just blaming, is the coaching not what he needs? At some point, you just got to perform. You can kind of transcend the coaching, right? But maybe there's something there. I don't know. We haven't seen anything yet. We don't know what this is. And it's an uncomfortable position to be in, that where you don't know what's going to happen. We think we know what's going to happen, but things could be wildly better or worse. We don't know yet. So we're going to find out.
I mean, worse is going to be tough to accomplish, I feel like, but not impossible.
I don't see how they're going to improve. They haven't done anything to improve the roster besides adding Kyle Miller.
You honestly don't think that they're a better roster now than they were last year?
Well, no, I don't think
You
so.
really don't?
Yeah.
I think
We
they're
may have
better,
some
but
What
the
makes you think
degree
they are?
of-
Kyle Miller trade?
I think Colin Miller, if you have faith in advanced stats, which I know I probably do more than you, I think that's willing to say that, right?
I like advanced stance to an
Right,
extent.
but I think if in our evaluation, I would say I tend to lean on them a little bit more than you would. Was that a fair assessment? Because you've played, you tend to be, you like you were saying with Nylander, like you're able to look at a guy and say, well, he's got a shot that can work. This is why. Whereas I've never played, so I can't say those things that I see on the ice, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of going off more of graphs
I know
and
you're
bar
saying,
charts. So
yeah.
that's why I'm saying Colin Miller is a guy that may have been a little bit misplaced as a third pairing guy, and is probably ready to, if you're trusting the advanced statistics, a guy that is pretty good at puck movement and somebody that can handle first or second pair minutes without too much of an issue. So if he moves up and he's the third or fourth best defenseman on this roster, then you've immediately upgraded on the defensive side because of who they were. I mean, do we want 16 minutes of Marco Scandella again? Or do we want to have somebody that actually is able and capable of getting the offense going and getting him out of the zone, right?
Scandella is one of those guys who's solidly in the maybe that's the guy Kruger can fix camp for me. Though.
sure.
When I think about the defense, because I think that was the glaring issue last year. They weren't great offensively, but they produced. Like they had guys that could put the puck in the net. You know, they I don't know, they weren't great, but like when you start to tell me like top pair like Darlene Montour, and then you give me like Risto and Yoki Haru or Colin Miller. Colin Miller led the Knights in playoff points last year for defensemen. Like he had something like this is not right. It was like 7 points in 21 games or something like that. But that's not like
During their
during the cup year?
he was a
yeah.
top.
He's feeding breakup.
No,
passes to
last
guys
year.
that can score
Last year he
goals.
was their top scoring
Well, they
defenseman
only
in their
played
playoffs.
seven.
They only played
games,
7 games,
so-
yeah.
So then I don't
But he's feeding breakup passes to guys that can score goals.
sure, but
But he's feeding breakup passes. That'd be
right,
a big step up.
That makes
Right.
him a better step up from. You know, I do look at as much as you keep saying, Justin, that these guys that they're bringing in are the bottom guys. They needed that. Like I'd rather Jimmy Vesey and Marcus Johansson be out there than Sabatka with.
I mean, they were putting
I don't know.
AHL.
Yeah,
But right now
out.
Sabaka's still here and like
Well, but so maybe these new guys push out guys like Sabaka and Okposo out of the lineup, or or those guys get something figured out and they still have a little bit of time and they hit the rejuvenation machine and they do something like even what Pominville did for the first couple of months last season, where he had double-digit goals by the end of November. There's possibilities here, but it was just such a pit after the first two lines, really, last year. Well, kind of after the first line, but there was such lack of depth when it came to the forwards, and all the forward that we had were hope. We were hoping that Olofsson and Nylander and Middlestat and all these younger guys were going to come in and do something that they haven't shown at all. Now we at least have some NHL guys where they may not have high ceilings, but we kind of we essentially know what they are, right? And unless they completely tail off and bottom out, which is always possible, it's possible for any player. But
that seems like it happened a lot recently.
Well, but I do feel, but I do feel like there's something there with what they have.
They're not rolling the same team out.
No, I don't. I don't think they are.
It's very possible that none of their lines and pairings are the same as they were last year. None of them. Like, you have Jack and Jeff, and then that other wing could be. I know Olofsson was at the end of the year. It could be Olofsson. It could be Johansson. Could be VC. If Jack and Jimmy really do get along, they train together in the offseason. And if there's chemistry there, we've said all along they can put whomever on that third winger on the top line. If they can finish, it was Pominville. They can finish.
And that's sort of what the new NHL is, right? Is like stick two big guys up there and then fill in the blank, so then that way you can move your talent down a little bit further.
Taves and Kane play together on the power play.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, they were not a 5-on-5 pairing.
You have Kane out there with like Saad and Anisimov or DeBrincat. Yeah.
Guys like Phil Kessel have been third liners for a long time.
Plays the point on the power play, and other than that, and that's that's what you want to be.
Dispersing of the talent throughout the lines that you can't do right now.
It's making difficult matchups for people. Like, how many times, if you just picture being an opposing coach coaching against the Buffalo Sabres last year, and you look at your defensemen and are like, all right, my top pair, you're just going to shadow Jack Eichel and Jeff Skinner for the will game, and the rest of you will rotate you through, because who else are you worried about? You game plan for one line. And if you can find another couple of guys who can go out there on a second line or a third line, make anything even the least bit difficult for the death of the other team, that's going to make it so much better for the Sabres this year offensively.
And don't forget, that's how Vanek got his big years when he was here too. Is he was a second line player? They had to worry about the top line, Briere or Drury.
That was a third line.
Max.
Yeah,
it was Roy
he was not for Vanek with the third line.
line.
But he was not a first line player. When he got moved up to the first line, he was exposed as not being as good in that role as he was in the second and third lines.
Well, just deeper teams win more. That's why everyone stresses just having like three good centers down the middle. That's certainly part of it. But it's having at least like three good centers, at least one good wing on all of those lines. You can roll out three good lines, and teams and defenses, goaltenders don't just get a break when your best player goes off.
Look at the
ice.
Islanders with Cizikas and Clutterbuck, and that's their fourth line, and they would go out there and absolutely body people and score.
Well, just think about
what the Islanders did.
Yeah, and like what the Blackhawks did with guys like Brian Bickle, who were death guys for them, or what the Penguins did with Rust and Kuhnhackl and those guys who were coming up in the system, Jake Gensel coming up in the system. And that's why I think Botterill's mindset, whether it's going to play out this way or not, the way it did play out for him when he was part of the organization in Pittsburgh, is we're not going to be able to make all these needle-moving moves, but it's going out and getting the biggest free agent all the time. Yeah. We need to bring these guys into the organization, and we need to take time to develop them. It's not the sexy way to do it. It's not flashy.
No.
It doesn't look great. It's not roster surgery. But if Victor Olofsson comes in this year and he has a huge impact, and then next year it's whoever, pick a guy, Asplund, Cousins, that guy comes in, he makes an impact. If you can find a guy like that every year and a half and bring him in to make a huge impact like that, problem solved.
That's ideal. That's what the Red Wings did for 14 straight years.
Right, I was going to say the Red Wings were notorious for that, and other organizations that have been successcul, like
even
Nashville,
the Sabres
kind of were letting guys. I remember the phrase was over-ripen in the AHL, and let them, have them come up at 22, 23 rather than 19, 20, and show them the whole, what was it, the black shirts or whatever their system was, where they would have all the AHL guys come up in Detroit and watch the playoff games together, because they're trying to show them this is what the organization is all about.
And now, does that play out this way in Buffalo? We're still probably a couple years away from knowing that. But the first big step in that, I think, at least during Jason Botterill's term here, is how good this year is Victor Olofsson. Because he's the first real big test for a guy who a lot of people last year were saying, why is this guy not here? He was the first guy they really let stew down there. And I think if it's not for some injuries and some really bad play, Victor Olofsson does not see the Buffalo Sabres last year for a second.
Probably.
I think he scores 25-plus goals this year.
It'd be a big addition if he does. Like, what else are you hoping for out of a free agent? Victor Olofsson is, for all intents and purposes, a new Buffalo Sabre.
He's going to be a big power play guy, in my opinion.
Well, and then you had Jimmy Vesey last year, who did not play big minutes for the Rangers, had 17 goals. It would have put him fourth on this team.
Yeah. Vesey's playing
I'm
for
not
a contract.
complaining about
I don't expect
anybody potting 20 goals in Buffalo because we just haven't had it.
It's 1 year, I think, right? I think he's here for 1 year.
Correct.
That's fine. You got to cycle these guys in and out. If you can get him rejuvenated, get him to 45 points or 40 points or whatever.
Does he even need to be rejuvenated? If he's playing third-line minutes and he scores 18 goals this year, he's averaged 18 goals a year the last 3 years. How many guys in the NHL can say that? I mean, the guy is averaging almost 20 a year. I don't need more from him than what he gave the Rangers last year. Nobody on this team scored 17 goals.
I don't know how many people can say that, but none of them can say they played for the Buffalo Sabres while doing it, except for like 2 or 3 guys.
He would have been behind only Skinner, Eichel, and Reinhart in goals last year. Put him on the third line and let him score 17 again, this team is better. And that's why when you're saying, this is a bottom 6 guy, this is a bottom 4 defenseman, they haven't had that.
I mean, the drop off from the top 6 and even really the top 3 to the bottom 6 and 9 is, like you said, monumental.
Was it Gergensons and Larson that both didn't score till like halfway through the year? Or was it just Gergensons? Like, that was a talking point that Gergensons went until January without a goal or something. I don't know.
He's a former All-Star too. It's kind of hard to imagine.
The heart of Latvian hockey.
Bold prediction: they won't be better than last year.
All right, we got him on record.
This is the guy that after the Sabres lost like 3 games last year, and I was losing my shit, was on my case.
By the way,
about how much better they actually were, and I'm not making. But man, now the pendulum has swung for you
because we're so far away from the start of the season that it hasn't kicked in for him yet. He's going to see one hype video in like August. He's be clawing at the walls.
I watched him play poorly.
I'm not that naive, Jeff.
I watched him play poorly for 3 games.
Wait. Wasn't it you that was talking about during the Kruger speech that if you were any of those rookies and prospects in that room,
He said I wouldn't be running through walls. I wouldn't need doors because I'd just fly through the walls.
It's way different than thinking they're going to be good next year. Though.
Did you hear about Cousin's thumb, by the way?
Yeah.
You a little worried about that?
No. Notice that I called this out in our group chat. Every picture he took, his left hand was conveniently under the table.
We don't know if he has a thumb. That's where the big
unproven
concern is.
Big Thumb wants us to not tell you.
Someday we'll break news. Anyway, any other Sabres thoughts right now?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Why would I think they signed Larson and Gergensons, I think are around 1.6 each.
That's right. Yep.
I'd rather take that 1.6 times 2 and give it to Evan Rodriguez and tell those that do the fuck off.
Yeah, right.
If there's such odds with Rodriguez right now, that's the guy they should have on the roster.
The Sabres are doing one of 2 things. They're either trying to have a ton of depth and have a bunch of guys to compete for the positions. Like the Bills' offensive line right now is a logjam as to who's going to win. This is a good muddying of the waters. But like, is the left tackle going to be Dawkins or Nseke or who else? You know what I mean? The Sabres are either trying to go to camp with 1 million players to either have a lot of depth that if they have injuries, they have guys that can play, or a lot of competition, or we are in for a huge trade. Like we're talking like 3 guys going out and 2 guys coming in.
Coming.
Yeah, but the reality is though, Jeff, the trades. Justin. The reality is that the trades could be 4 small trades. They could trade Casey Nelson for a third. Like they kind of did that with Beaulieu, right? Just kind of move him on. They could trade 4 bottom tier guys for nothing just to remove the logjam, or they trade Risto and Olofsson. I'm not rooting for that for Patrick Kane. That's not what I'm saying, but you know what I mean. That's not at all what I'm saying.
Someone make that trade on Shell and tell me how it goes.
Right, you know what I mean. Just that we could see one of those huge trades coming.
I think Byron came in the offseason banking on trading Ristolainen for a skilled forward, and I think people know he's in a tough spot to trade him, and I don't know.
But I think he's also not going to do it if the price isn't right, and I think that's why.
I firmly believe that Rasmus Ristolainen is a Buffalo Sabre on opening day. Probably. I think if he was going to move, he'd be gone already.
Yeah.
The market dried up teams that were in cap hell are no longer in cap hell.
Yeah.
Partially because one of those
Jets still
teams
are.
is
And
the
now teams
Knights.
are spending up to their cap, like the
Jets
Sabres too. The Sabres
The
don't have
Jets
a
still
ton of
need to
caps.
move somebody out.
Yeah, but they don't need a defenseman like that.
They lost
They
Trouba.
need
They lost
defensemen.
Ristolainen. They
Uh-huh.
lost another one. They lost 3 of their top 6.
No, they need to get Ristolainen.
Yeah, they lost Myers. You flipped that
They
one.
lost Myers. They lost
Time I.
Trouba.
I said it, right?
No,
You said
Ristolainen.
Ristolainen.
He said Ristolainen.
Oh, my bad.
Projecting a little bit there.
Our other great
They-
tall.
they still have Morrissey,
defenseman of
right?
the past.
Morrissey, Bufflin.
But it is a dead time. Like August is not a prime.
The Sheary trade
time
came in
for-
August.
It did.
The Skinner trade came in August, I think.
They might have
don't
even
quote
been
me.
later. The Sherry trade was late, or the Skinner trade was late, like almost training camp.
There's still time. It's gotta
All I
come-
know is that my kid's Panini yearbook last year, Jeff Skinner was on the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
So it was
Very late.
after
After Panini printed their
it's a
yearbooks.
post-print date for the Jeff Skinner.
Anyone who knows a guy who works at Panini, let us know what print date it
But
is.
Sheary was on the Sabres in a Penguins jersey.
So what do you guys think about the Nylander trade?
Blackhawks fans hated it, which makes me
Yeah, they
kind of
did.
like it.
Yeah. I hear
Have you come around?
I hear the D prospect that's good is like a really good defensive prospect, but at the same time, the type of player the team is missing right now is a skilled player like Nylander. And say what you will about the guy and his AHL career and blah blah blah, but they need a skilled goal scorer, and
But-
that's what he could
right.
have been.
So the great debate is
And fast,
we've
very
shown
fast skater.
again. No, I was
CJ
just saying
Smith is
in the Slack we had a spirited debate about this, and you were pretty crestfallen when they let go of Nylander. I think you enjoyed Alex Nylander, what
did.
he could be or what he was or
The
whatever.
prospect of him for sure.
So then we looked at guys that were still in the AHL at his age that were top. Was it first round picks? I think
it was
or
first round
top
picks.
20 picks or whatever. And boy,
split the difference on
there
that.
wasn't one guy on there that was
Worth a damn.
anything. So the track record indicates that. And look, Chicago doesn't take. You don't have to go very far back into their history to find a reclamation project that they had. Right, Dylan Strome can't do anything in Arizona. Goes to Chicago. What did he have? Like he was 35 goals, something like that. I mean, he was a
he
revelation
was
last year for them. Right?
Awesome
Yeah.
last year in Chicago.
So, there are parallels here. However, the Blackhawks Twitter and the Analytics community could not imagine that the Blackhawks would give up a guy, a prospect of this level, right?
Their first round pick last year.
Their first round pick last year. Now, granted, lower, like I think it was in the 20s or whatever. And then the Athletic came out this morning with their top 50 prospects. Drafted NHL prospects essentially have to be under 23 and not played at least half a season in the NHL. Dylan Cousins is the first listing on there for the Sabres, and he's at number 9, and then at number 26. Look who the Sabres just picked up, the 26th best prospect in hockey, and I forgot his last name again, so I'm not going to say it right now. Henry, was it?
Yogi Haru.
Yogi Haru.
He was
Yogi Haru.
drafted 29th overall.
Thank you. So Yogi Haru is the only other guy on there. He's 20 years old, right-handed defenseman. He's number 26. So the Sabres have 2 reps in the top 25. They project out to be Cousins could be potential all-star. Yogi Haru is a guy that's going to play for you're looking at he's a double-digit seasons NHL type of guy. It's a pretty good pickup to have for a guy that a lot of the league thinks time has passed already. Right?
No, they have a plethora of puck-moving defensemen. They have Pilot, they have Darlene, they have Montour, and then they traded a position of need, a player type of need for something they already have a lot of. Is my issue with the trade.
Right.
I'm going to play devil's advocate on that for 1 second, and I was pro Nylander and very adamantly, actively, vocally pro Nylander. I don't think any successful hockey team has ever said, we have too many of.
No, I
we
know.
have too many puck-moving
Yeah.
defensemen. It really sucks.
I do. Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's the biggest thing is if you're gonna you're gonna have injuries, you're gonna have attrition on the roster throughout the season. Every team has it.
Who?
Why not have exactly. Why not have some, if you're gonna be trading or putting yourself in with too many guys, and there are still guys on this roster that have AHL time. They don't have to worry about putting them on the opening day roster. If you have some of these guys break out, You can get rid of some of the other guys. You can buy them out. You can trade them away because people are always looking for defensemen. You might as well it's the old philosophy, we're going to draft to our strengths. We're just going to take the best player available. I think the Sabres saw it. They had a chance, saw that it was a pretty low price, no draft picks, no NHL guys, nothing, just a 1-for-1 hockey trade. Now, if it turns out to be Adam Larson for Taylor Hall, sweet. Doubting that that's going to be the case. But it certainly seems like the unanimous decision is that the Sabres made the right move there. We will see.
And if Nylander goes to Chicago and gets rejuvenated again, we probably look back and hate this trade. But if Alex Nylander continues down the career path that he has been on and doesn't spike up, worst case, you bat even.
He's a Rockford Ice Hog for the foreseeable future.
Big-time Ice Hog star, Alex Nylander. And I wish him the best, although he did speak very lowly of his time here, so maybe fuck him, honestly.
Loved Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
As everyone does.
It's a fine city. It's perfectly adequate.
I was born there in a hospital that doesn't exist anymore, so...
After you came out, they said, we're done.
Yeah.
Close up shop.
We've
shut it
peaked,
down.
ladies and gentlemen.
Wait, which hospital?
Genesee Hospital in Rochester.
Did they brew in the back or something?
Jenny Cream Ale.
I'm well aware
brought to
that
you
the
by
Genesee
our-
River...
I think it's an office park or apartments or something like that now. It's not a hospital. Active surgeries are not occurring in the building anymore. So,
Beer hot take. I've never had a Genesee Cream Ale.
uh-oh. Look at
What?
you, kiddo.
For real.
Unless they're having
Yeah,
next
'cause
week.
I've had a lot
See-
of cheap beer.
See, Bill, the reason I ask is because I was born in a hospital in Brockport that is no longer a hospital.
Oh, all right. Well, then there you go. A lot of issues
Lakeside
in the
Memorial
medical
Hospital.
community. People in the greater 585 area code just dropping like flies out there. So everybody's fired up about the Bills approved look inside the Bills online.
I only saw the first one, but it was pretty good.
Is it good?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it. I'm going to be completely honest.
It's a good thing to get yourself into as you get back into the football mindset. I know there's like the previous 2 months between the draft and free agency really happening, and this point in time, football is not on my mind. Like, there's no fantasy football preparation. There's no thinking about it. There's no big moves happening. Pretty quiet offseason, save the Tyreek Hill news, which even given there's a lot of it, has been pretty spaced out. But now it's 3 days away as we're recording here on the Monday night. 3 days, and it'll be 2 days by the time I listen to this, from when the Buffalo Bills report to their first training camp, 2 weeks in advance of their first preseason game. And now we're under 50 days back from NFL football Sundays, so we are very much approaching football season. It feels like the lull. If you're not a baseball guy, this is where summer sports really begin to drag. There's no basketball, there's no hockey. Drafts are done, free agency's done. Now you're just kind of waiting for football.
Yeah, training camps will lead Sports Center by Friday, right? I mean,
They already are.
They
It's
already are.
already-
Yeah, so
Because you had
Some teams
what
reported
Odell
today.
said today, right?
Yeah.
You had Odell
Oh,
was
yeah,
in
okay.
GQ.
All right. So,
like
yeah,
it's
that-
already, you know
yeah.
what I mean? It's
Oh, yeah,
already
no, that
dominant.
GQ thing.
And
That was everywhere.
Le'Veon Bell talking about working out, that he's supposed to be running down the stairs at the airport, which he was right and pretty funny, but his delivery was not good.
Yeah. So there's a ton of
But anyways.
activity going on right now, and we'll see what actually comes of it. But Bills are in an interesting spot. You know, what did they do last year? They were so bad at the beginning, and we all lost hope. And then, admittedly, they had a pretty good second half of the season. Basically, post that Patriots Monday nighter, I would say things kind of hit an upslope after that, right? So it felt like whatever, and I hate this word, but momentum was built up from the positive second half of the season. Now we have something to talk about. We have a team that, if the breaks go the right way, I think you could see the Bills potentially contending for a wild card spot. There's got to be quite a few breaks there, but
they should
the
have.
team looks better. It looks better on paper. It looks the offensive line, essentially the entire offense. Let's not talk about the offensive line, the wide receivers, the running back depth that isn't 30-something years old. I don't understand the Frank Gore signing. I didn't understand the Chris Ivory signing. I don't understand it, but they drafted a stud at running back.
I don't mind the Frank Gore signing in a vacuum. because you're not paying a ton of money to a guy who's going to be able to teach your young running back literally everything there is to know about playing the position in the NFL.
Because Shady McCoy is not that guy. No sarcasm. He's not that guy. He's not going to take a young running back under his
and
wing.
Frank Gore 100% is that guy.
Yeah.
And you look at where Frank Gore has been recently. Look at the guys who have started running for teams after Frank Gore left. Marlon Mack takes over for him in Indianapolis, and he seems to have done pretty well.
Carlos Hyde in San Francisco.
Kenyon Drake now starting in Miami. These are guys who have played with Frank Gore, and these are guys who were not necessarily, with the exception of Hyde, they were not necessarily top of the line guys here, but Marlon Mack and Kenyon Drake was a guy who did not have it figured out before.
Hyde's in the worst shape of any of them right now, too.
Yeah, by far. But Kenyon Drake, who had a little bit of a struggle even getting playing time in Miami, plays a little bit with Frank Gore, and I don't think it's entirely coincidence that he has figured it out now.
Yeah.
And I'd love having a guy like that. We don't talk about like good locker room guys. Maybe that's an overused term in sports in general. But man, if I'm David Montgomery, I am ecstatic to get a chance to like learn from and train with a guy who is probably at this point one of the, if not the most seasoned players to ever play the position in the NFL.
Yeah, Montgomery looks like he's got a lot. There's a lot going on with this. Quarterback's stable for the first time in forever.
You know who the starter is? There's no competition.
There's nobody is pretending that anybody other than Josh Allen is
Give
the
me
starter.
Jabron Hamden or give me that.
That's right. Which, I mean, really other than Tyrod's second year, because there was chatter, I remember, about Nathan Peterman after his rookie year. There were people that were on record saying, who's the first quarterback to start a game in this draft class? Who's the potential breakout star? And it was Nathan Peterman, who was very good at Pitt. No longer very good, but was good for a while. He beat Clemson, beat Penn State. I don't know, man. He did some stuff in college. Anyway, so almost everything unanimously on the offensive side of the ball just feels better than it did last season.
The receiver depth, I think, is the most glaring thing that's going to help Josh Allen. Well, the receiving depth and the offensive line. The offensive line's not a sexy thing to talk about, but maybe let's start there.
No,
not
that's
having to run for his life and having a little bit more time,
right?
That makes the difference. And I think over the course of a year, and I think there's a lot of agreement upon this too in the room, the quarterback gets hit after 3 seconds every time. Maybe the 5th time he doesn't get hit, but he still thinks he has to get rid of the ball.
Gets those
and not
happy
speeding
feet.
up that internal clock, not speeding up his feet, not feeling like he has to run to make every play. That will give him the best opportunity to make plays with his arm.
If Josh Allen can deliver a 7-yard strike this year, they're going to be very good. Because Cole Beasley will catch 120 balls. If Josh Allen shows that he can hit a 7-yard slant or a 5-yard hitch,
those shorter passes is where he really struggled.
Correct. Like I just remember there were times he threw it, and I'm like, that's not even in the same vicinity.
He threw a fastball and he needed to take something off of it.
Sure, but
we call that JP Lossman syndrome.
I just don't want the quarterback having to run 7 different times for 25 yards plus. Because you see fun and good, and I see that's not a successful way to run an offense.
Yeah, and if he gets hurt and he's out for a while, boy, does that offense take a bit of a nosedive.
And the goal is that's not how you win Super Bowls. I'm sorry, like if you look at the quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls, it is not the guys like even Cam Newton, who I love watching play, and his athleticism. The reason that the Panthers made a Super Bowl run was not his ability to run. He's a great thrower of the ball. He can.
Cam Newton is probably one of the best all-around quarterbacks.
But it's his arm
NFL.
that got him there, not his legs. And even in the instances when Vic and McNabb made Super Bowl appearances, they got beat by the pocket passers.
Right. Like Russell Wilson's the only guy that really would incorporate any sort of RPOs.
And I think if Russell Wilson had his options, he would take an offensive line and not have to play for his life every down.
Absolutely.
He led the team in rushing last year. And then they're not celebrating that fact.
And then, Roethlisberger can stand in there and take a hit and occasionally scramble. And then we're getting to, way back when we considered John Elway and Steve Young running quarterbacks because they would.
Steve Young is a pretty mobile guy.
Steve Young Steve Young would be fascinating to see in today's NFL. OG. Like a 27-year-old Steve Young in today's NFL. That would be pretty cool to see.
So much of this season is predicated on Josh Allen.
It has to be so cliche, but that's right.
A lot of it.
I'm not worried about the guy at all in the sense of his leadership and like he's a baller, but like just play the position right.
I'm worried about his ability to hit a pass, his accuracy. That's really the only thing I'm worried about. I'm not worried about his mental makeup and just not worried about his leadership.
How likely is it? And I don't know. This is not me how likely is it that this Bills defensive line eats dudes up?
It should.
Right? Like, in theory, how likely is it that quarterbacks are running for their lives from this D line?
With as good as their D is, and they got returning another year of Edmonds, with as good as that D is, and the improvements made in offense, they should be a playoff team if Josh Allen plays average.
My biggest concern about the defense is just year over year. It's so hard for defense to repeat success,
sure.
And they've done it for 2 straight years. And they could do everything right and be the 12th ranked defense, and then you're worried about a couple of those games that you could have had, right?
So many times the league's best defense or top defense, those teams lose a player or two, and their D coordinator turns into a head coach. So they have other returning players, they have the returning defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
And a lot of teams, too, a lot of defensive success, like teams that spike up and down, are based off of turning the ball over or having unsustainable... wasn't there one year where New England scored like 7 defensive touchdowns or something? I'm thinking of Alabama. That is my bad.
The other empire.
I apologize. However, point stands where this defense seems to be more scheme based on their good play rather than the luck that can the 50-50 balls that can turn, that are 65% and 35% one season over the other. Right?
I think the playoff year recently, we got very lucky on bounces and turnovers.
That was a turnover-based defense.
I don't think last year was, though. Last year really felt like an earned scheme team.
Some of it was because they got ran all over a couple times, and like that Atlanta game when they knocked the ball out of Matt Ryan's hand, and Matt Milano had these crazy picks, and like that play, who picked it up? Was it Micah Hyde that picked up that ball? It looked like an incomplete pass, and it was either Hyde or Poyer scooped it up and ran it to the end zone, and they reviewed it and called it a fumble, even though that ball flew 10 yards downfield. Like, I think it kind of was, but I just feel like this team hasn't had a good pass rush in how long, and it's so essential. You want to make Tom Brady look average, just get in the backfield. You don't even got to knock him over, and I don't know if they've had that in a while. Maybe I'm just really hopeful with Ed Oliver.
Yeah, but that's the scheme over luck thing that Bill was just talking about.
Yeah.
The last season, the Bills had 27 turnovers forced. But their net was actually -5 because the offense had 32 turnovers.
Well, you hate
not
31 of which were Nathan Peterman.
The Bills tied for 8th with Kansas City.
Enforced
turnovers. Chicago led the league with 36. No,
speaking of
next closest
number,
was 31, by the way. Yeah.
I mean, how many of those for Chicago, too, were just in that first couple of games when they should have beat Green Bay by about 4 scores and let Aaron Rodgers on one bad knee come back?
What's more impressive? Chicago had 36 turnovers last year. San Francisco had 7.
7?
Wow.
7.
It's the latter. You almost get 7 good bounces a year.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
That's not even one every other game.
Kids bet on.
They played against Arizona twice a year, and they only had 7 forced turnovers.
49ers are going to be very much better.
Wow.
Not to tilt the subject. What do you guys think about the 18 game schedule? With players,
which version of it?
With players playing 16 games.
Players capped out at 16.
The dumbest thing I've ever heard.
So
it's just such a money grab.
The thing about that is there's apparently a few exceptions. Apparently the quarterbacks are going to be exceptions.
Well, now it's even dumber.
Well, at least you don't have to have somebody like Nathan Peterman coming in.
What do you think of the
games.
added strategy that goes into that? Like, I think it's more fun actually if they don't have. If they're capped to 16 games.
It's like, you need to make sure you have 2 of everything except for quarterback and kicker and punter and that one guy in your defense and a receiver and your top. They're just going to keep changing the rules until all the big guys who make the money get to play 18 games a year. It's not going to fix anything.
They would increase quarterback salaries so much more, too.
It would.
It would be astronomical. But it would be fun to see, Blake Bortles having to...
Yeah, which game?
What 2 games? Well, the 2 Cardinals games would
which
be where Blake Bortles would be playing this
Which
year.
game do I play Nate Peterman?
Right. Yeah.
If they did it, they would have to do every position because otherwise it defeats the entire purpose.
How much
it's
more,
like, you have to play all your backups, but actually keep Tom Brady in for.
How much more important about that position would be?
Yeah, but you can never even build cohesion, and because injuries are still going to happen, guys are going to be out for the rest of the season. Guys are getting it. Just, all of a sudden a guy gets hurt. In your starter, he gets hurt on the second play of game 1 and is lost for the season. So, but you still have a backup that would only be able to play 16 games. So then you have to have a third guy that plays in 1 game. Like, just the math of it is
either
mind-boggling.
It's never going to happen.
They should just do 18 games with 2 bye weeks for everyone and let everyone
That would
play.
be fine. Didn't they have a year? There were a couple years back in like the 80s or 90s where they had
in the
2 bye
90s.
weeks built in.
There were 2 bye weeks when there were 31 teams.
Yeah,
Before
when Cleveland was in before Houston.
yes, because odd number of teams, everybody had to have a bye week, and you didn't. And it just worked out that I think everybody had 2 bye weeks, and I think there was another season that everybody
I
had
thought
2
they
bye
had at
weeks.
least experimented with it. I just
During a regular even number team season.
Is anyone going
yes.
to complain if the NFL regular season is now 3 weeks longer? That just seems like a win for everyone
No, and
involved.
just-
It's a win for fans. It's a win for player salaries. It's a win for owners' money. But trying to mess with the concept of how the game is played and saying that you need to play backups
And
for 2 games.
I think what they should do, though, if with an 18-game schedule, if you want to do that, with the 2 bye weeks, have your first bye weeks in 5 weeks 5, 6, 7, and then have the 11, 12, 13-ish.
just have 8 teams
5, 6, 7, 8, and then
and
like
then
11,
9, 10, 11,
9,
12.
11, 12.
Or 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever.
Just balance it out.
Yeah. So every team's got the equal distance, and
Right.
then you rotate it. Like every year, you basically lock yourself in. Like, all right, this is the year that we have weeks 5 and 11, but next year we get them later in the season, and we're weeks 8 and 5 and 10, and then we're weeks 8 and 13 or whatever. Like, just you set the bye week so you know what it is on the cycle. I'm sure that there would be smart teams that would try and figure out some way to exploit that.
I'm sure.
And
And
that's
if you
fine.
can, then
But
go
just
on.
let teams know ahead of time. We all know now what teams, where you're playing everybody in 8-year cycles anyway now. Like, it's not a mystery. Other than the 2 teams, we know exactly who the Bills are going to be playing next season and where they're going to be playing them.
The thing is, that's going to add 2 more oddball teams that you play.
That's fine.
So then you just go against another division, or you instead of having like where you play
The 2
an
Florida
AFC, well, you have like an AFC North team on the road and an AFC West team at home, and then you play the AFC South. Just have it where you're just playing another one of the divisions. You're just going to play the entire AFC West, and then that fixes both of those games plus adds your 2.
And it makes playoff tiebreakers so much more straightforward too. If you
'Cause you're
play
playing so much more
almost every other,
conference.
you
Yeah.
play.
Yeah,
Which, if you're going to still
11
have
of the
conferences, you
15
might
teams
as
in
well
the
have it
conference.
mean a little bit
this year
more.
you play Southwest. Next year you play West North. Year after that North South.
Right, whatever it is, you
And it
rotate
makes
through.
those big cross conference games feel even more important because
Right.
they are such a smaller percentage of
Look
the
at
schedule.
how big that Bills Chargers game was a couple of years ago.
For many reasons.
Yes, I was actually listening to the old podcast. I listened to the 3-week spread of Saints, then Chargers, then Chiefs.
Was one of those shows the first show we had Steven and you guys?
Steve came in after the Saints game.
And we argued about Tyrod.
Then Justin was missing. This was back when we were at the fabulous Fandoozy Studios. You were out for the Chargers recap, which was just like, I don't know what
That was
the
a
fuck
fun
happened
show,
on
yeah.
that. And then I was out, but somebody had to play Hate to Say I Told You So by the Hives for me because I was the only one that predicted the Chiefs game that Tyrod Taylor would start and win against the Chiefs.
Might have been me.
And yeah, so that was fun. We were so young, so innocent back then.
That was back.
Now we're
2
old and
years
jaded.
ago.
What do you think that guy's up to these days?
Tyrod?
No, Fandoozy
Fandoozy.
guy.
I don't know. Text him.
I know what
text him a few
Tyrod's
times,
up to.
and he hasn't answered me.
No? He's still working
Tell you
on
what,
that
he's not
Canadian
making a
Venture
look.
Capital or whatever.
Yeah, he's not making a website. That's for sure.
Yeah. We grade it, and you have to pay for it. So that's
Yeah.
what makes it
It
good.
was Reddit, but only for sports,
And you had to pay for it.
and you had to pay for it.
It was like somethingawful.com.
But it had verified
Sports.
users.
Yeah.
Like
Don Luce.
Talk Sports with Andrew Peters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a $5 Taco Bell card or whatever. I'm pretty sick. Look, it worked for the time, all right? It was a different time back then. That was Web 1.0. Now we're on like 17.6 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find us on Podbean, Spotify, whatever.
Not quite yet. So we'll be ramping up the Bills coverage, of course, like you said, about 2 weeks away from Bills Colts. Get to see our good friend Andrew Luck in the stadium for one drive. Pretty cool. For the kids.
That's why I say if anyone who wants to tell me that you couldn't get rid of 2 preseason games and just make a longer season has clearly never watched a week 1 preseason game.
No, but we went.
Andrew Luck
we went
took
to the
a snap,
Panthers game last year.
Takes 3 steps, hands 2 off, throws an out route, incomplete, possibly on purpose, and never sees the field again.
folks. What entertainment we provide for you. No, it's good games to take the children to because you don't have to think about it and see what you're watching on there. And
it doesn't matter if the kids want to go walking around the stadium because the game doesn't matter. And you find out that, David Sills has a 3-touchdown game in the third. You're elated.
Sweet.
It's awesome.
Cool. I hope he makes the team.
I unironically hope he's like the 5th or 6th receiver.
I want David Sills. We all need more David Sills.
We got away from it for a moment, but man, do I feel so much better about the receiver corps this year. Because I know it's not
better,
like
for sure.
world beater, but adding Cole Beasley and John Brown feels so much better than what we had last year. I think Beasley, Brown, Foster, Zay Jones, maybe Sills or whoever the 5th guy is. That feels okay to me.
You're really excited about Sills.
Zay Jones is going to have to step up this year and actually, catch something.
If he doesn't, then you can just start looking to move on from him.
He's really
at least this is the right point. Yeah,
he's not guaranteed. No. He's fine.
He's focused more on his fucking get up, smooth moves, everything.
How did he do that?
I see him on Twitter just doing it everywhere.
I still haven't figured it out. I don't understand.
For a guy who dropped
he's got a good
one pass in college.
Oh, man.
Strong core muscle.
Strong. Super strong.
Core muscles don't catch passes.
I mean, if they could,
technically,
man, David Boston would have been a fucking beast.
That would be.
DK Metcalf trying to test that theory this season. Tan core muscles, catch a football. Dude. Watch a Seahawks game, find out.
You asked earlier, Jeff, and I'm just thinking about it as I cough. Shady, does he start week 1 in Buffalo, and does he finish the season? You asked that question in the intro, just kind of making small talk, and we got here. And what are your guys' thoughts on the LeSean McCoy experiment or whatever word you want to use? Because at this point, that's what it feels like. Because it doesn't feel like.
I guess I'll go first because I raised the question. People have asked about it, so that's why I mentioned it in the intro. But I would be pretty surprised if LeSean McCoy is not here week 1. I would imagine that he's starting now. Where it gets interesting is what do you think that the carry distribution is going to be between him, Frank Gore, and Montgomery? Probably you figure you start the season 70% McCoy. But when it comes to week 17, do you think that LeSean McCoy, healthy or not, another question mark, because he's been banged up basically every year the last couple of years, do you think that he is, without a doubt, the best or featured back when this season is done with?
Well, it depends on LeSean McCoy if he's playing well or not. I mean, that's the easy question in my opinion. If he's playing well, for sure, featured back. It all depends on him. And he's got the improved O-line that should be able to run block this year as opposed to last year. I don't think he's all the issue. That offensive line this year was pitiful.
Yes, that line definitely was pitiful. And the funny thing is, people talk about, they graded out this for Pro Football Focus, but you can have 5 offensive linemen each grade out at 80%.
It's like,
but one of them could be screwing up royally every play.
Correct.
I think you're not gonna rid yourself of LeSean McCoy in lieu of Frank Gore and a rookie. And they have so much cap space. It's not going to hurt them to keep.
So this Montgomery, I'm assuming you're talking about Devin Singletary.
Yeah,
the draft pick.
Yeah,
they also have David Montgomery from Iowa State. But you're
Do
right.
they really?
Yes, but
I'm not seeing him on any roster. That's why I'm.
Well, yeah, but you guys were saying Montgomery a couple times, and I was confused. But Devin Singletary, I think, is who you mean. But
probably
even still,
Devin Singletary, 3rd round pick. Yes,
that's why we're the 26th best podcast.
Yeah, no,
it was a long joke. Some people just don't fucking get it.
Gotcha. David Montgomery's on the Bears, so forget about that. We met Devin Singletary, and that's why we got you. Yeah, that was pretty funny, right?
Thanks.
We're pinning our hopes on a guy that's not even
I just
here.
want to know.
All right.
I didn't want to be that guy the first
point
time.
Is,
who's David Montgomery? It sounds stupid.
So here's the point. The point is that Devin Singletary is going to be the team's leading receiving and rushing running back this season.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's right.
They have to turn this over. And are we in agreement that Yellen's going to get cut?
I'd be pretty surprised if he didn't.
Yeah, he seems like
he'd be the first
odd
one
man out of
the only way that he makes the team is if he's returning kicks and playing special teams both ways.
And he's not. Frank Gore is on the team as a ceremonial thing, but by putting him on the PUP list, you're just trying to keep him in bubble wrap until week 1, and then he can spell, and maybe he gets 8 to 12 touches a game.
But you're not relying on Gore to be your number one, your workhorse, but he's also productive at this, even at this stage in his career. He's productive, so it's not a bad use of a roster.
Singletary that I like is that I think he's flexible enough where you could bring him out and you can do some different things with him. Now, offensive creativity has never been a strong point of the Bills since the K gun, but I do think like there are some things. Well, that's not fair to Chan Gailey, but there's. I apologize, Chan. That's on me.
Chan Gailey,
but I do think that there's a potential for something that you could keep him. He's the guy I'm most excited about in terms of the offense because I think he has the most dynamicism of anybody.
But at what point is McCoy already done in Buffalo? Because his attitude towards it. Because I don't think he wanted to come here originally, but they signed him to a big deal, so he takes the money and runs. That literal pun intended. Yeah, I did not mean to do that, but that was funny too. See, and
so good.
Now, like as his role diminishes, as it did kind of last year, even when Chris Ivory's getting some carries, and I know McCoy was banged up, but if this team comes out week 1 and Devin Singletary makes a game-breaking play, Shady's going to be telling his agent, I think he's selfish. I don't think he's going to want. He's not going to take a back seat to anybody.
I don't give a shit.
I think he all crazy as hell.
He is not going to take a back seat to anyone.
And that's fine. Then I think he will. I think there's a greater than 50-50 chance that he's cut.
You guys are crazy. That's what I think.
You have a 30-year-old running back on the last year of a deal that he has been basically on a downward trajectory now for 2 straight seasons.
Yeah. And there's the off-the-field stuff. Most of it unfounded, right? Like we don't, but like...
Well, I mean...
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Coach Troops does run a pretty tight ship, and he seems to have the longest leash of any player, but now as his...
he's become expendable.
Right, he's becoming expendable as he gets older and as his contract winds down.
And I think it's very possible. In the stable.
Right, I think it's very possible that
he's
cut.
The reason why
I understand why you're saying he's not, right?
The reason why he's expendable. Think about who the New England Patriots have been playing at running back the last 15 years. I know Sony Michel had a pretty good year last year, but man, they have trotted out some one-offs and some guys at the end of their prime.
They also have Tom Brady, the point is that great offensive line.
The point is it doesn't matter who you play at running back to be an NFL team these days.
Look at the
Kansas
Chiefs.
City.
Yes,
Kansas City lost Kareem Hunt in the middle of the season and plug and play the guy in Damien Williams who didn't stick in Miami.
Yeah.
That guy didn't stick in Miami. He goes to Kansas City. A good team makes a good running back because a quarterback can spread out 4 wide and throw the ball down the field. Just give the ball to the running back. No one's in the box. The reason that it's going to be tough to be a Bills running back is until Josh Allen proves that he can do that, it's hard to run into 8 players every play.
I think that when Shady came here, he was probably the most dynamic running back in the NFL. The Bills, time and time again, have had incredibly effective run games, and it doesn't mean shit. It doesn't. They can be the number 1 rushing team in the NFL every year. It doesn't amount to a hill of beans. And for me, Bill, when I think about it, and you said you think there's a better than 50% chance he's cut, I'm rooting for it. Because to me, it would show some forward thinking from Brandon Beane. Hey, we're set to pay this guy $9 million this year. That's a lot of money for a running back for a 30
Maybe he's just here as a pawn to sell tickets. And now they sold him. He's gone.
Well, I thought Russ Brandon's been gone for years now.
Right?
Huh?
Russ Brandon's been gone for years now.
I think that because I'm kind of rooting for it, I don't like him. I don't like what's happened off the field with him, with the girlfriends and the jewelry and whatever, and
the Avengers spoilers,
and with his son. Right?
The Avengers spoilers is far.
He's had
something came up with his son too.
In trouble several times, and yes, one of the girlfriends or mistresses said that he was beating on his son. He is not an individual that has shown a lot of
and I agree with that, Justin, but where there's smoke, there tends to be fire.
There's a lot of things
there's a whole lot of smoke.
If it's just one lady saying like that, you wonder then, but there's a lot that's been going on with him, and it's pretty recurring.
The bar fight, right? He was in a bar in Philly, and some guy came up, and his posse he wasn't involved, but his posse.
Bar fights, I'm not as worried about as potential abuse of children.
I wouldn't be worried about it if there weren't these other instances, though. That's what I mean. Like, it's just. So I'm rooting for it because I think it would show some forward thinking. That hey, you know what we don't need to do? Pay a running back a lot of money because what we can do is we can have Devin Singletary on his rookie deal for 4 years, and then give him the 5th-year option where he makes a decent amount of money, and then we can let him go, or we can draft another guy in 4 years, or that's what you're supposed to do. Correct.
Yeah. And unless you think the Buffalo Bills are a Super Bowl team this year, which I don't think they're a Super Bowl team this year, maybe
they are most certainly not a Super Bowl team.
It doesn't matter if you have LaShawn McCoy this year. Do you just let Devin Singletary learn while you continue to build your roster?
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's Frank Gore's role.
Yeah. And you know what? If McCoy is still here and he's hurt, or Singletary is the guy and he's hurt, Frank Gore is a capable guy who can plug and play into that running back position. He's not going to put up 150-yard games like he did back in San Francisco
last year. Like he was
given the ball 20 times, he gets you 75 to 80 yards.
4.5 average. Yeah. Like he's not going to outrun anybody, but that's fine. I don't think the Bills are looking for that.
If they plan to get rid of him, he'd be gone by now, in my opinion.
McCoy?
Yeah.
I think they trot him out of training camp and see what he's got. There's no reason to get rid of him now.
But if
Friday he's clearly lost a step, he is gone immediately.
I think it hinges on Singletary. If Singletary performs, then
it's probably a combination of the two because, like I said, I think we can count out Yeldon, and now it's a matter of thinking. Well, maybe Yeldon stays if McCoy got cut for some.
But what about Montgomery? What happens with him?
Dave Montgomery is probably okay because he and
Tariq Cohen are going to have a great year in Chicago.
Yeah,
as Jordan Howard's in Philadelphia now.
He is.
And then McCoy and Jay Ajayi can go find a new team together. And when Darius Geis tears his other ACL, they can go play in Washington.
Do we have any other Bills news notes? You excited? Let's talk about this Buttes thing real quick. They got the name and the logo back?
Not officially.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a press release unauthorized?
How many players they have signed so far?
4.
So pretty much everyone going to camp is going to get signed this week.
They're going to have to.
Buttes are going to Northtown because they, can't really play anymore.
Well, they've done this camp at Northtown every year, no matter what. This camp was at Northtown last year.
Much cheaper ice time.
It is much cheaper ice time.
Like incredibly.
The problem, as mentioned earlier, but in our discussion about it when that press release came out, is if they go to Northtown, you're just giving up on fans being there because there's nowhere to sit.
Right, that's only about what?
We do the UB games at Feature,
and
there is nowhere to sit. There's no press rows. There's no legitimacy. There's no big, cool PA system. The PA system is a literal piece of shit.
Right.
And all speakers are blown.
The speakers are blown out. You're right on top of the ice. It's super cold. It's not fun to watch a game there.
They're not going. People looking way too far anyway. They're not going to Northtown.
No. They can still, they can buy ice time at
KeyBank Center.
Well, anywhere. The same way anyone else is. They want to play at Harbor Center, they can play at Harbor Center.
The league is financially in a good, decent state financially right now.
That is the hottest take this podcast has ever had.
I don't know. I mean, they're increasing player salaries. I mean, they got to...
Yes, because the last time they did that, they definitely had the money. No don't worry about it. Don't think about it.
Not even from Harbor Center.
I would be surprised if the team exists and doesn't play at Harbor Center.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be more surprised if you... Just didn't want to say. I'd be more surprised if they leave Harbor Center than
the team played at Harbor Center before PSC took over. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
That being said, they currently have 4 players.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably going to exist, but boy howdy is Connecticut going to kill them.
Maybe they have a GM player in that.
Yeah, they have a GM and a coach and a couple players.
Well, GM was a goalie. Back. It should be a GM player, GM/player coach.
So I don't know. The lawsuit is interesting between PSC wanting to remove themselves from the team and trying to give it back to the league, but the league not signing the agreement. So now all their social media is currently deleted, which is great when you're trying to build a fan base back for another year while you're fighting the fight against all the big time players who don't want to play in your league ever, as long as it exists, while simultaneously not signing something that just says, okay, we own this now. So PSC is like, oh, I guess we still own this. Let's turn those off.
I'll tell you this.
It's been a month.
The Buttes locker room is still fully intact. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Also, you were there for the power play.
Yes. I used it twice.
Just feels like...
To change and then to change again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like a really cool crown above the exit. It's pretty cool. That's all.
Like a 3D crown?
Yeah, it's like it comes out. It's like a real manufactured, comes out of the wall. It's pretty sweet.
That's cool. Well, on our other sister podcast, Light Fixtures, today, we'll make sure we talk about that and other great things that we've seen in the Harbor Center. Anything else that we need to discuss tonight? We talked about our summer vacations. We've talked about the Bills, Sabres, Buttes.
Cleveland Indians are going to win the AL Central. Nothing anyone can do about it at this point.
Yeah. Fait accompli.
Just watch your
Twins were beating the Yankees 7-2, and the Yankees are coming back. So you're welcome.
Yeah, a big shout out to the New York Mets who played good baseball for the first time in 5 years to sweep the Twins last week. Big ups. We appreciate it. This is a Cleveland Indians podcast.
Oh, we're looking at that crown. That is a great crown.
Shout out to Eric, who is possibly actually listening to this for that picture we stole from your Facebook buddy.
Eric retired. Is that news or?
I guess it is. That was very recent. I was going to end with that, but we can talk about it.
We talked to him. Yeah, go ahead.
So Eric, who is occasionally physically on this podcast, but while not actively usually the voice of it, very actively involved in
got an
a lot of things that
name.
we do. Eric Wolschlager, if you will.
Good for you.
My broadcast colleague. It's not quite a Yoki Haru, but it's all right.
Eric Yoki Haru.
Founding member of whatever it is, website editor, color analyst for the Buffalo Beauts and the NWHL, and soon to be another thing we can't announce yet. Officially retired from women's hockey coverage over the weekend to dedicate his time to other things, his family. He's still doing some writing for Die by the Blade about the Sabres, things like that. But a lot of the things that we do are kind of a weird spiral off from Eric being involved with the Buffalo Beauts, which is mainly I got to meet you guys. Me, Justin, and Eric sat in Justin's apartment and made little podcasts about Beauts games. And then we decided to try to go call Beauts games. And now here we are 4 years later, kind of actually local sports broadcasters. But that's all because Eric was a day one Buffalo Beauts guy. And assuming the team exists in it's the same capacity, it's going to be weird that he's not a part of it because he's done a lot for the team, the league, women's hockey in general, professional women's hockey in the area. And he's not the kind of guy who always got a lot of recognition for it, but he's done so much for oftentimes so little. And it's kind of, in a way, while he gets to call his own shots, kind of bittersweet to see him, walking away from it. So if he's still listening, which he might be, we appreciate you, bud, and we'll see you at a rink sooner or later, as soon as we can talk about the other thing that isn't official yet.
We love you.
You can find our podcast in its many forms, good, bad, or indifferent. The 31st Funniest Sabres podcast. We're down 5 spots today.
Man, rough show,
after
guys.
that
Let's
terrible
try and do
Dave
better.
Montgomery joke. It was a joke. We did it intentionally.
Gotcha.
On Podbean, Spotify, whatever, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, who gives a fuck? We're on Facebook at 716 Sports Podcast, Twitter at 716 Sport Podcast. We are on Instagram probably sometimes. We don't have a Reddit. We don't have a Tumblr. And we are on Bumbler. Bumble? Whatever. I don't know.
What is Bumble?
I'm not the guy to ask.
I don't know.
But sure.
I try to do Bumble and Grindr and combine them into Bumbler, which doesn't exist.
I'm guessing that those two don't always interact.
Probably not.
That's
But we're on
super
both. We want to reach out to as many different groups of people as possible.
I will set up the Grindr account tonight.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
He said
We'll be back either next week or soon enough.
Didn't you miss us?
Yeah. This is what you waited 3 weeks for, folks. It's all uphill from here. Good night.